We are almost done with school, at least I know JJ and Kaden are, because they're in the Dickinson ISD district. But I hope that everyone is having a good week, and we are almost done with school, so that's very exciting. And I want to remind each and every one of you of the verse of the month, and that is John 14:6. And that is, Jesus told them, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one can come to the Father except through me. That is our memory verse for the month. We are not at the end of the month, so you still have time to memorize it. This week, we are learning lesson 3 of this plan, and it's about the Holy Spirit. And so watch the video, and then I will teach the lesson afterwards. See you in a minute.
Today, gonna teach you another lesson on life as a highway. We've got another road sign to learn from today, and that is this yield sign. Do you know what yield means, kids? The dictionary says that it means to give up one's place to another. When a car approaches a yield sign, it must give up their place to the oncoming car. If they choose not to yield and they just go, it could end up pretty messy. You know, this yield sign can teach us a very important lesson we must learn on the highway of life. We have to yield to the Holy Spirit and give Him the right of way in our lives. The Holy Spirit speaks into our hearts and leads and guides us down the highway of life. If we choose not to yield to the Spirit and do things our own way and not listen to what He says, then things could end up pretty messy for us too. To teach us a little more about what the Bible has to say about that, I'm going to throw it to my good friend, Big Papa. He's going to teach you today Proverbs. Black bones connected to... Oh! Sweet smoking squirrel gravy! How you doing, kids? It's your buddy Big Papa out here on the highway of life. And I've got a whole payload of power verses for you. Right here. Today's power verse says, let us follow the Holy Spirit's leading in every part of our lives. Galatians 5:25. That's a tasty power verse, ain't it, kids? All right, now I want my boys to stand up. All together, boys, come on and say the power verse on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Let us follow the Holy Spirit's leading in every part of our lives. Galatians 5:25. And that was a good one, boy. Go on and sit down. Now it's time for my girls to stand up. Come on, one and all. On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Let us follow the Holy Spirit's leading in every part of our lives. Galatians 5:25. Good job, girls. Go on and have a seat. You know, kids, as I'm going down life's highway, sometimes I feel the Holy Spirit telling me to stop on the side of the road and tell people about Jesus. I could argue with him, but why would I do that? He knows so much more than I do because he's sent by God. And you know what? Every time I listen to him, it turns out cooler than a snow monkey in January. Now that you know that, kids, let's say the power verse together on the count of 3. Come on, boys and girls, stand on up. 1, 2, 3. Let us follow the Holy Spirit's leading in every part of our lives. Galatians 5:25. Good job, boys and girls. Sit down. I fixed it. Well, boys and girls, it's time for me to get on out of here. I'm going to send you back to the Officer J. But remember, life is a highway, and this is your Big Papa telling you that I got to roll on out. See you later, everybody. Thanks, Big Papa. What an amazing Proverbs, kids. You know, the Holy Spirit is such a great gift that God has sent to us. The Holy Spirit is smarter than us, more powerful than us, and He knows exactly what God's plan is for our lives. We must yield to the Holy Spirit and never try to do things without His help. Every time He speaks to us, we must listen. And that brings us to today's big idea. Today's big idea says, slow down, wait a minute, listen to the Holy Spirit. So anytime today you hear this sound, hey, what's the big idea? Stand up on your feet and say, slow down, wait a minute, listen to the Holy Spirit. And that's today's big idea. Well, kids, I know you're going to have an amazing time learning today's lesson. But every time you're riding down the highway and you see a yield sign, I want you to remember what you learned today. That we must yield to the Holy Spirit. Let Him have His way in our lives. And He will help us make the right decisions every single time. I'm Officer J, reminding you to buckle up and stay safe. And I'll be seeing you next time on Life is a Highway.
Like a GPS device. In case you didn't know what a GPS device is, let me explain. A GPS stands for Global Positioning System. The device is in constant communication with the satellite systems in space. The satellites see the entire world at one time. The GPS device basically knows every road, every street, every river, every mountain in the entire world. It tells people where to go. If I want to go to a destination 1,000 miles away, I just punch the address into the device and it tells me every step of the way. The device is a lot like the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit speaks to us as we travel down the highway of life. He tells us where to go and what to do. We need to listen to His still small voice in our hearts and always obey what He tells us. Why? Because the Holy Spirit is God. We can trust what the Holy Spirit says because the Holy Spirit is God. God is made up of the Father, which is our Creator, God the Son, which is Jesus, and God the Holy Spirit. So, if the Holy Spirit is God, we know that the Holy Spirit knows us so much more than we know us, right? If God the Holy Spirit, He knows, if God is the Holy Spirit, then He knows everything. He knows the past, the present, and the future. Just like the GPS satellites can see everything and know all the roads, the Holy Spirit sees everything and knows everything. So why wouldn't we listen and obey to the Holy Spirit? Why would we ever think we know better than the Holy Spirit does? We would never think that the GPS knows more than we do. If I wanted to go find Park Place in Alaska, I wouldn't know where to go, so I would need to type that into the GPS, and I would trust that the GPS would get me there, right? If there even is a Park Place in Alaska. The same way, we should always obey the Holy Spirit because He knows so much more than we do. More than that, the Holy Spirit wants God's best for us. When the Holy Spirit leads us and guides us, He leads us and guides us into God's best for our lives. We can trust Him. The GPS device would never deliberately lead us the wrong way. Would it? Of course not. It was programmed to lead us to our destination. The Holy Spirit also never leads us astray. We can trust Him. He wants God's best for us. So, how many of you would say you would definitely yield to the Holy Spirit in your life? Of course, we would all want to, but how? Sometimes it's difficult to hear the Holy Spirit speaking to us because life is moving so fast and there are so many voices let me illustrate. I'm gonna have JJ come in here and help me illustrate what it's like for the Holy Spirit. Okay, so he is going to distract us with just life's pressures, right? And I am going to be trying to do something. Go ahead. Okay. Now, just take it down just to one bell. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Okay, stop. But if we stop and let the Lord, or if we try to hear the Holy Spirit, let's see if we could actually hear what I was trying to say. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. And so with all the distractions going on, we need to try to stop and just sit still and listen to the Holy Spirit, right? You see, sometimes life is so busy, you could go, thank you, babe. Sometimes life is so busy and loud that we have a hard time hearing the Holy Spirit speaking into our lives. We need to shut down, waiting patiently, and listening to the Holy Spirit to speak into our hearts. When we hear him, we should obey him. He knows more than us, and he wants God's best for our lives. Okay, I want to thank you very, very much, and I hope that y'all have a fantastic day. I know Dickinson ISD, you're going on your last week of school, so I'm hoping that maybe we can see each other this coming up week. Okay, I'll talk to you next week. Bye.